Okay, so I'm just going to go through some setups for a few games. Um, so the first one I have here is 78 Game 2. I'm not accessing in Law Hub right now, just I actually don't know why I'm not doing it in Law, but I guess I just opened them all up in PDF and can do this for now. So we've got 4 students will be assigned to a history project in which they will search archives from the years 1921, 22, 23, 24. Okay, so I don't have to write out 1921, 1922, etc. I just can write out 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's one little thing that will make this a bit simpler. Okay, so I have those 4 years. Each of the 4 years will have exactly 1 student assigned to it, hence the little lines above those years. We do have 6 students available. So what that means is that 4 will be assigned and 2 will not. The 6 students available are, we'll just use their initials, L, M, O, R, T, and Y. Okay, 6 of them. All right, only L or T can be assigned to 1923. So 3 is either L or T. Okay, those are the only ones that can be assigned to it. If M is assigned to the project, then M is assigned to either 1 or 2. So if M isn't assigned to 1, so if M is not assigned to 1 and M is not assigned to 2, then M is not assigned to the project at all. Okay, I'll do, for some reason, my computer wants to know. Okay, well, you can go away. All right, there we go. So that's just not positive. The real takeaway here is that M can't be 4th. It can't be like the in year 4. Okay. So I am probably going to refer to this as like 1st through 4th. I know that 1st would be the person who searches the archives from the year 1921, but I'll just refer to as 1st sometimes because it is kind of a nice little sequencing game with some selection as well, some in and out action. So we have 2 components here. So in and out or selection would be another word for that, or that's the grouping component. So we have an in group and an out group. And then we also have a sequencing component, which we could also refer to as the ordering component or linear component, because we do have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right, so yeah, so M is 1 or 2 or out. Can't be 3 because 3 is already, we know that's either L or T, right? And it can't be 4th because if it's in, it's 1st or 2nd. All right, moving on. If T is assigned to the project, so if T, then R has to be assigned to the project. If we don't have R, then we don't have T. And if we have R, then we have O, and O has to be assigned to the year immediately prior to R. Okay, so if we don't have O, then we can't have R, but also if we can't have O immediately before R, then we can't have R. So maybe, O is in, but there isn't enough space for O and R to be side by side. So that tells me that I cannot have R. So if I don't have space for O and R side by side like that, then I can't have R at all. Okay. So yeah, and then that's going to result in me like not being able to have T. So yeah, if I don't have O, then I don't have R, then I don't have T. That's going to be a problem, right? Because we only have 2 spaces for students that are not selected. So if we put O out, we also have to put R out. And if we put R out, we also have to put T out, and then we aren't going to have enough students to assign to the project. So what that means is I can't actually trigger that by putting O out. So O actually always has to be in. Okay. If R is in, O has to be immediately before R, but otherwise just O just has to be in, and O can be in without R, and R can be in without T. All right, so that's as much as I would do for the setup for this one. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a refresher, and also just noting what type of game this is. So if you do have access to any kind of like spreadsheet, or there are some like lists of games online that have different components, and maybe you find, oh, like I think I need more practice on this aspect of this game, then that's something that you could search. So there's like tons of resources out there online for free, but sometimes you don't know what language to search for, right? Like you don't know what you're struggling with, and so it's hard to find resources for that particular issue. So this might help. Also, there's significant conditional reasoning here and conditional rules. So that's the if A then B kind of format. And I'm creating contrapositives by switching that up. So that's called a contrapositive. So that would be something that would be worth looking up as well, if that's something that you're struggling with. So yeah, conditional rules in logic games. And if you're struggling to create contrapositives, or understand that as a logical inference. Okay, so then that would be something that you could look up. Okay. Double check if this is correct. It is. Anyways, okay. So that's the first game that I have open here. The next one that I have, so we'll take a look at this. This one is also looking like an in and out game. Okay, so that's what it has in common with the game that I just did, but I'm not seeing any sequencing element here. Okay, so in a certain recipe contest, each contestant submits 2 recipes, one for an appetizer and one for a main dish. So the reason I would still call this an in and out game is that we only have 2 groups, and together the 2 recipes must include exactly 7 flavorings. So we have 2 groups, 7 total between those 2 groups. And so each of the yeah, and no flavoring is included in more than one of the 2 recipes. So we're really just splitting up these flavorings between the two recipes. Okay, so 7 total, F, G, L, and those are my 7. So usually I would write that out like that. I just did it backwards. There we go. All right. Okay, the tricky thing here is we don't know how many are in the appetizer and how many are in the main dish. The appetizer has at most 3. Okay, so 3 is the maximum for the appetizer, which means that the minimum for the main is 4. Minimum 4, and for the appetizer, the maximum is 3. F is not included in the same recipe as N. Okay, so that means the appetizer is going to have one of them, and the main is going to have the other one. That's one way that you could diagram that. S isn't in the same recipe as T. So we have S in one. One of these spaces here is going to be for S or T. Commas in between them. This is splitting these guys up. All right. And then ginger is in the same recipe as nutmeg. So wherever nutmeg is, ginger is as well. All right. So based on that, we do have a minimum of 2 now that have to be in the appetizer, which means that we have a maximum of 5 in the main. So we can make some numerical deductions based on the other rules that we get where we have to split certain players up. So for the appetizer, we get anywhere from 2 to 3 ingredients. And for the main, we get either 4 or 5. Oh, that's weird. Okay, must have like accidentally pasted something from a note. Okay, so yeah, that's what we've got for these guys. And that's as far as I would go in terms of like the setup for this one. So give it a try. Like I said, this doesn't have the sequencing element that we had in this other game here, right? So also I should note what test this is. So this is test 24. So that's that 24, game 1. And this one up here, I think was 78. And 2. Yes, game 2. 78, game 2. There we go. Okay. So set up for these two. So this one didn't have that same kind of if then statement sort of issue as previously. So it is, selection, grouping, in and out, but not so much with the conditional rules or the sequencing. We do, however, have like unknown numbers between or like unknown distribution. So this one included some numerical deductions that we didn't quite have to, we didn't have to make that the same way in the other one because we knew that there were 4 in and 2 out. Okay. So some variations on the theme here. Right. Here we also have selection or in and out, but then we have another kind of issue that we're exploring, which is subsets of players. So we have 3 different types of players, in this case, 3 different types of animals. Okay, so a researcher will select exactly 6. What's that? 44. Okay, so researcher is selecting exactly 6 from among what we've got 3 plus 3 plus 3, so 9 total. Okay, so that means that there are 3 out. So a bit of a numerical deduction, but it's not as much of like an unknown, right? We can make that deduction and then move forward with that knowledge. And we have 3 monkeys, F, G, and H. We have 3 pandas, K, L, and N, and we have 3 raccoons, T, V, and Z. I'm just gonna italicized those. So typically what I'll do if I have 3 different types of players is that I'll do uppercase, lowercase, and then cursive for the third one to kind of keep them separate. They're pretty nice usually in that they'll try to keep the letters that they're using from like the same sort of part of the alphabet, and then there's like a little bit of space in between. So so here, we have F, G, H, and then they don't use I or J, and then they go to K, L, N, and yeah, so they're nice there. They've skipped M which is nice of them because M is also for monkey, right? So yeah, I mean, as tricky as the LSAT is, they're not, that's not what they're testing you on, right? So it's not so much about the LSAT writers being kind or not so kind. I mean, it can feel like, oh, that's nice. They're giving me a break there at least. But the reason is because they're not really, they're not testing you on that. On like, can you remember if this is, K number 1 or K number 2 or that? Yeah, it's just not as important. Okay, so F and H are not both selected. Okay, so we can't have both of them selected. How do we diagram that? So one way to do it would just be to put F and H in a box and then cross it out. Okay. I don't find that that's the most helpful way to do it for this. I think what I'd rather see is I'd rather see it conditional because I see conditional coming up later. So how do we take not both, stop crossing it out, not both, and translate that into a conditional statement? So what pattern do we have for that conditional statement? Well, we have, if we have A, then we do not have B. If we have B, then we do not have A. Okay, it's possible that we have neither, but we cannot have both. Right. So that means at least one of them is out. So I could put a space here for F/H. So at least one of them is going to be in that space. I can't say that at least one of them will be in because it is possible to have neither. Then I have N and T, and it is actually possible here to have neither of those potentially, right? So now if, for example, K is out, I know that one of these, each of these two pairs is in, and I also know that every player that hasn't been mentioned has to be in, okay? Because I only have 3 out positions and 2 of them are kind of already spoken for. So that's why that's helpful. And then the other conditional that we have, so that kind of covers the first 2 conditionals. I'm just gonna a different page. All right, and so there's our not both reminder. Okay, so these conditionals. So if H, then we have K, and if K, then we have N. So I can just string those through. The contrapositive is if we don't have N, then we don't have K, and if we don't have K, we don't have H, right? So I can start from just having K and say that we have N, or start from not having K and say we don't have H. That would be fine, but we can also string them together like this. We can connect the conditional. So this one involves conditional reasoning and also translating conditional into conditional reasoning into conditional statements. All right. Yeah, so what do we have here? We have in and out, we have subsets, right? So categories, right? We've got conditional reasoning. We've got translating not both to conditional statements. Those are all things that, if you are struggling with that, you could either ask for some help in that area specifically or search for examples of that specifically. Yeah. 47 game 3. Okay, so this one here is not an in and out game, so I'm going to save that for a different video. Here we have an in and out game as well. Okay. So get up to the page. Right. So this is, what's the test that this is from? 48 game 1. What did I just do? I keep accidentally like grazing like the top part of my my laptop, and it's doing things I don't intend. All right. Henry has exactly 5 electrical appliances in his dorm room. H, M, R, T, and V. As a consequence of fire department regulations, he can use these appliances only in accordance with following conditions. Can't use both the hairdryer and the razor, so cannot use both. Same as before, not both. So that means if he's using the hairdryer, cannot use the razor. If razor, then no hairdryer. Can't use both the hairdryer and the television. Okay. If hairdryer, then no TV. If TV, then no hairdryer. Looks like he's got like quite a powerful hairdryer, one that seems to require a lot of juice. When Henry uses the vacuum, he can't at the same time use any of the following. Okay, so the vacuum is even more problematic. So can't use hairdryer and can't use the razor and can't use the television. So if he uses the TV, no vacuum, or uses the hairdryer, no vacuum, or uses the razor, no vacuum. All right, so the vacuum could be used along with the microwave, and then that would be it. The hairdryer uses the hairdryer, can't use R, T, or V. So the hairdryer could be used with the microwave. So we could have V and M, and then we have H, R, and T out. We could have H and M and have V, R, and T out. If we have T in, then we can't have V or H, but otherwise we would be okay. So here I'm just maximizing the players that are in based on a single player that I'm choosing. So if I have T, V and H are out, and I could, if I wanted to, put the other ones in. If R is in, then what do we have to have out? V and H. So yeah, that would also be maybe the same solution as we have there. And M being in would be any of these options are possible. So if I wanted to maximize, I would put R and T in, and I could also just have either V or H, or M on its own. There's no rule against that. Okay, so we can look at this and we can see that all of our triggering conditions are positive and all of our consequence conditions are negative. And so we can kind of note that pattern right at the outset, and just note that that might be helpful for sort of seeing which ones are possible, to be in together and maximize them. But there isn't going to be any situation where putting a particular player out forces a player in. We don't even have like a minimum that have to be in use at any one time, right? So it's all about what could be used simultaneously, rather than, oh, that you must have, like he must always have, the microwave on or whatever. Like there's nothing that says that we couldn't turn the microwave off and just use the hairdryer, but we could use both at the same time. I hope that makes sense. Right, so another one where we have conditionals and in and out. So more variations on game. Right, and 54. So 54 game 1, more conditionals. So we've got 3 men, F, G, and H, and we have 3 women, J, K, and L. Again, because I have subsets here, I'm going to use uppercase and lowercase to distinguish them. At no time during the dance will anyone other than the dancers be on stage. Who's on stage and off stage at any particular time is determined by the following constraints. If J is on, then L is off. So if L is on, then J has to be off. If L is off, then J is on. And if J is off, L is on would be the contrapositive. Okay. So what I see here is that if I put all of these together, what I end up with is a scenario where I have to have one of them on and one of them off. Okay, so all together, we end up with a biconditional relationship between J and L. So the position of one of them is going to tell me the position of the other one and vice versa. So that's pretty helpful, but it also tells me I do have to have at least one dancer on stage, right? So yeah, so if this is, I'll put on stage here and off stage here. I have at least one on, at least one off. If Felipe is off stage, so if we don't have Felipe on, then Jacqueline is also off. And if Jacqueline is on, then Felipe has to be on. And then the final rule is if any of the women are on stage, which, I mean, we already know that either Jacqueline or Lorena is going to be on stage, right? Grant is also on stage. So Grant is always on stage. Okay. So if we look at the first question, which one of the following is a list of all of the dancers who could be on stage at a particular time? Well, we have to have Grant and we have to have either Jacqueline or Lorena. So we can eliminate A and B. Okay. And then what else do we have going on? So if we have G, H, and L, that shouldn't be a problem. We would have F out and therefore have Jacqueline out, right? And we would also have Kiko out. So C is the correct answer here. The reason that D is wrong is because if Jacqueline is on stage, Felipe should be as well. And E is wrong because we can't have J and L on stage at the same time. Okay. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Try out these games and then let me know if there are any specific questions that you're struggling with, and I can do videos specific to that. But I think these would be like a good overall review of in and out games and conditional reasoning. So if that's something that, that's something that you want to work on, then this would be a good set to come back to. And if there's any issue that you struggle with in particular, then you could find other games that will help you practice with that. Okay, and as always, let me know if you have any questions, and feel free to comment and give any kind of feedback or, yeah. All right, have a good one. Bye.